Global pandemik masih belum reda, cuaca ekstrim yang sentiasa berubah, isu pembakaran hutan yang masih berleluasa. Living Planet Report 2020 menunjukkan hubungan manusia dan alam semula jadi semakin retak. Apakah yang harus dilakukan? Apakah solusinya? WWF Malaysia membantu dalam menangani isu ini. Dr Jason Hon, Ketua Konservasi Sarawak Program dijemput untuk membicarakan isu ini di dalam Bual R&D episod kali ini bersama saya Qistina Donna Lee Abdullah. Kita merungkai tajuk kita pada hari ini iaitu WWF Malaysia in helping Sarawak towards environmental sustainability through R&D. Welcome, Dr. Jason.
Thank you very much.
So, how are you today?
I'm good.
Okay. You have been working with WWF for quite a while now, right? So, what made you interested to join WWF Malaysia?
Well, first of all, allow me to say thank you, for inviting me to this talk show. It's an honor to be here. For myself, getting into this conservation line is something came pretty much as an awakening call to me. When I was in university, I had a chance to be involved in a lot of activities in school, in university, and then I realized that there's definitely something that we need to do, something that Malaysians can contribute. And it just struck me that I thought, this is an environment that I like to be in. I like to be in the outside. I like to be with the nature. I like the natural surrounding. And I thought that if I could do something more while enjoying what I love to do, and this is where I decided that I want to get into this field of work. And I'm very fortunate that along the way, I had this opportunity to pursue my study. I had scholarships, but I have wonderful people to work with. I got into WWF about 7 years ago, coming to 8 years now. And I'm very fortunate that we have an excellent team and we have very good partners out there that we work together. So that kept me going.
The establishment and objective of WWF Sarawak.
Well, WWF Sarawak has been around for quite a while. WWF Malaysia and Sarawak has been around for quite a while. We work on a lot of programs with our stakeholders and partners out there. The mission is actually to reduce the degradation of the environment, conserving biological diversity, and for the well-being of nature and people. So as you see, we emphasize on nature and on people as well. So we work on these two aspects. Now in Sarawak here, our program focuses on key objectives where we can actually help government towards the conservation agenda. We work towards promoting at least 7 million hectares of forested environment here. We know that the government has a land use policy of keeping at least 7 million hectares of forest intact. We work in about 1.17 million hectares of priority areas where we are focusing on. In the other bit that we work on is on the integrated watershed management. We are piloting in an area of about 560,000 hectares in the Baleh region, where we try to push for watershed management. And lastly, we also work on trying to get species that are hunted, traded, to see that there's a reduction in it. We want to work for the benefits of humans, that they can actually enjoy seeing wildlife out there. So that's pretty much what we work on here in Sarawak. And it's a strategy that we developed for a 5-year strategy here.
So at this establishment, the objective is more into looking at the nature and also the people surrounding.
Yes.
So we're talking about the topic for today. Probably Dr. Jason can explain in depth the background of the topic, the WWF Malaysia in helping Sarawak towards environmental sustainability through research and development.
Well, I'd like to go into something very relevant now. I think everybody is affected by it. COVID-19, for instance, everybody is impacted. Let's go back to see what actually caused us to actually live in such confinement and fear. COVID-19 actually gave us an opportunity to relook at how we do things. It has impacted a wide circle of people. And I think this is where we need to see, there must be something that we can actually learn from this. For instance, Sarawak may be less impacted by it compared to other countries. We have communities who can still continue on living. They still have livelihood being maintained. it's all because they keep the natural surrounding intact. Yeah, it provide them with that services, the ecosystem services, the food, the water that they need. Yeah, so I guess this is something that we need to look at. Yeah, how we can actually leverage on this and work on this. Yeah, Sarawak is blessed with so much natural capital, natural resources out there. We need to see how we can sustainably manage it, conserve them, and protect for the benefit of all.
Yeah, I understand. And I also believe that this pandemic 19 is also giving us opportunity to actually to work on our ecosystem, right?
Yep.
So the sustainability of environmental such as species, by looking to the forest, freshwater, and also marine. So what are the situation, the current situation faced by WWF Sarawak program?
Well, I guess the very first thing is people do not really acknowledge that what we have out there in terms of species, the values that they serve us. We tend to look at things from just the face value, what we pay money for, but we do not see how these animals, trees, plants, rivers, the natural surrounding, how they actually serve very unique functions out there that build this ecosystem that we live in. And I think this is the challenge that we are facing. People don't look beyond some kind of monetary value. They do not acknowledge that there's services and functions of all these things, natural wonders that we have out there. So I think that's the very first challenge that we need to overcome, is to get people to actually acknowledge that there are actually values of these things out there. This is what we call natural capital. Like what I mentioned, Sarawak is blessed with so much natural capital. We don't see timbers as from wood. We should see them as being able to sequester carbon, take away carbon dioxide, provide clean air. The forests provide clean water. So I think this is one of the things that we try to do, is to see how we can bring values of all these natural ecosystem out there, and what are the services they provide to human beings. From there, we acknowledge these values, then we can conserve them, we can protect them, we can develop them further. So this is where we try to work on this challenge, to overcome how people actually perceive what are natural surrounding out there and how they can actually serve and help us.
I agree with the statement that you were saying just now, whereby this pandemic COVID-19 is actually naturalized the whole ecosystem. Ya, kita berhenti seketika, jangan ke mana-mana. Kita kembali lagi bersama saya di program Bual R&D. Di studio pada hari ini kita menjemput Dr Jason Hon. Kita kembali lagi, Dr Jason. We're talking about the WWF Malaysia that have many research now is going on, right? But what are the current research doing by the WWF Malaysia that's significant towards the sustainability of Sarawak environment?
I'd like to actually maybe quote one of our work, which is one of a very big study that we're doing. It's called Natural Capital Valuation Study. And in this particular study, it's about how we put values into our natural capital. Yeah, what are the natural properties out there? How do we put values to it? Now, allow me to actually cite some of our work here. Yeah? In this particular work that we do in Bali, we found out that the net gain, if we were to go for what we call a green economy model, would actually give us about $4.1 million a year, as compared to business as usual, which is current practices right now, that will actually give us a deficit. Now, what do we mean by green economy? It's about getting businesses to adopt good practices, green technology, green approaches, certification, for example. So these will actually give us a gain in terms of values from all the services that's out there. Now, on the higher extreme, where is the conservation model, that will actually give us a much higher value of about $18 million per year. But I think in a situation when we are economically driven, we are still developing, we need to come up with somewhere in between, which is why we come up with the green economy model. Now, in this study, we actually collected a lot of data from people living in the interior. One of the things that came out really, really high on the list is how they value water, services provided by water. Yeah? And on top of this, they also found out that sedimentation is something that they put a lot of values in. In other words, if we were to do something and and remediate against sedimentation, it will cost a lot of money. I understand why this is such highly valued by the local people in the interior, because they use rivers for communications, for transportation, for food. Yeah. So this is one of the studies that we do.
By doing this project in the rural areas, so you might want to have more fun. So where do you get your grants or the funding?
Yeah, a lot of this work require a lot of funding. But first of all, we work very closely with our colleagues and counterparts and government agencies as well. We try to secure funds as much as we can. A lot of our fundings actually come from the donors out there. Don't be surprised that the WWF Malaysia has an operation throughout Peninsula Sabah and Sarawak. We work on an annual budget about 47 million ringgit. Yeah? And about 2/3 of this money actually comes from our donor base out there. People, public, who actually put in donations to our work. I think because they believe in this cause of what we do, we are answerable to the mandate given by them to actually give good data out. So that's a big chunk of where the conservation money comes in. On top of that, we do get external grants from our network as well, which is about 1/4. But overall, I would say that about 3/4 of our money is actually spent on conservation work on the ground.
So by doing this research and development, you will have some challenges and limitations, right? So what are the strategies actually to solve all of these limitations?
Well, yes, there's definitely a lot of challenges. One of the things that we do get very often is the perception of an organization like WWF. When people think about NGO, is this perception about NGO are not very friendly. So I think it's something that we do get a lot of these challenges. But we need to actually work very closely to overcome this. We need to overcome this perception. Well, the other bit that I actually mentioned much earlier on is about how people do not put conservation agenda as something of a priority in their livelihood, in their daily life. Right? They may be experiencing a lot of things in life, yeah, but they do not relate that to what our natural environment is actually providing for them. So it's about creating a lot of awareness about conservation in Sarawak. So this, I believe, is one of the key challenges that we are facing. But nevertheless, we will always continue working on that. I think our key role in pushing for good communications, good awareness, messaging is also very important. We need to show that by doing this, it actually comes back into providing benefits to the people. And I think that's the other bit that we try to work on. Yeah.
So during the awareness, you will have to invest some of the social media or probably printed media on the awareness, right? So it is up to the community to actually to have the awareness and to create the culture of that. So kita kembali selepas ini, kita berehat seketika. Kita kembali lagi di studio. Dr. Jason, probably you can explain more further the impact of R&D of this project to the social economy of Sarawak.
Well, I think for a start, we have seen the government moving towards a lot of good practices out there. I'd like to specifically mention the government's direction towards sustainable forest management, where we have seen a lot more forests being certified. Hopefully, they will carry out a more sustainable way of logging. We have also seen a lot of good practices out there. People are more aware about how to conduct agricultural practices using good schemes out there. We reduce fertilizers, chemical use. Yeah. And I think the other bit is we also seen impact of how the agencies, the enforcements are there and increasing to actually tackle illegal wildlife trade. It's all about zoonotic diseases out there. So it's slowly coming on, but I think what is important is a long journey. We need to actually embark on this. The impact will come as we move along the way. Yeah? So I'd like to see that. I think this is something that we want to look at that happens slowly over time, but it's slowly coming already.
Right. So the one just now that you was mentioned about the project that you guys are embarked into the natural capital evaluation. Yeah. What are the other projects that in the future that you guys have been proposing?
All right, in Sarawak, we are guided by what we call a 5-year strategy. We work on this strategy every 5 years, and the strategies are something that we work on that are relevant. We talk to our stakeholders, we talk to our partners out there, we talk to our government agencies, from a wide circle of people, the public as well, and the civil society group as well. So we are guided by this strategy. In the next 5 years, we are focusing on 3 major landscapes that we want to work on. First one is what we call the Ulu Ai Sedilu Orangutan landscape. As the name implies, it's got orangutan as the key conservation goal that we want to target at. The second landscape is the Rajang Basin freshwater landscape, where we're trying to push for integrated watershed management approach. And the third one is the Northern Sarawak corridor, where there are multiple protected areas like Gunung Mulu, Pulau Tau National Park. But what is in between are very important habitat that connects these protected areas. So that's the other habitat that we work on. So in the next 5 years, we hope to work on this. But on top of that, we also have a cross-cutting module on sustainable landscape and also green economy. We're trying to push for good practices, good land use management in Sarawak.
Right. So these are the 5 years planning.
Yep.
So what are the achievements so far that you guys have achieved internationally or national level?
We are considered actually quite young, but we are actually quite proud that a lot of our achievements were actually done together with some of our key partners out there. I'd like to actually quote one of it. Just last year, we worked very closely with the Forest Department of Sarawak, and they won the state level High Performance Team Award. We were actually quite happy to be part of this project for the Gaharu tea planting work in Batang Air National Park, Ulu Menyang area. The other bit that we're working on with the communities up in the highlands, we call the FOMADA Forum. It's the Highlands Alliance of the Highlands People in Sarawak. So we work with them. I think back in 2015, they actually won the UN Equator Prize Award, which is a very big award given by the UN. So it's a recognition of the community's role in transboundary conservation. So these are just some of it, but other small things that are slowly coming on board. We work with the rice farming communities up in Bacalalang. We have already seen some of them reaping a lot of harvest using system for rice intensification, where they're using a very good approach of rice farming. They've seen the yield increase almost 2 times already. So I think these are some of the things that we have seen them slowly achieving. But lastly, I just want to say that none of this would not have been possible without support of general public out there, the donors, from our partners, from our sponsors, corporate donors as well, who actually support our work. So I think I can't mention them too long, but I think their contribution to our work is being acknowledged for all this.
So you are welcome to continue on the future projects that you've been mentioned just now.
Yeah, so we are guided by this strategy, and this strategy is drafted in a way that we also contribute as much as possible to, at the international level, how are we contributing to the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDG. In particular, in Sarawak, our programs are very much aligned to SDG goals on land and water, life on land, and also on water and sanitation, and also on climate action. So all of these strategies, these SDG goals is geared towards 2030, and we like to see how it's about moving towards environmental sustainability as well. So the programs done by Sarawak are actually very much aligned to the SDG goals at the international level. And at the state level, this is where we are also aware that government has got this post-COVID-19 exit economy action strategy for the next 10 years until 2030. And it's got environmental sustainability as one of the core principles of it. So our Sarawak program conservation strategy is very much aligned to that, and hoping that we can help the government move towards that environmental sustainability as well.
There is a collaboration from all the parties, NGOs, and also from the other stakeholders.
That's right.
So probably Dr. Jason can conclude the topic today that we have been talking about.
Well, Donna, it's been an honor talking to you today.
Thank you.
To the audience, I actually would like to say this. WWF-Malaysia as an NGO, we do play a very important role. We do provide an alternative views to things. We do it in a very constructive manner. We work with our key partners out there, pushing for key conservation agenda. Our interest is in the state of Sarawak. We like to see Sarawak move towards sustainable development. We like to see it being done in a manner that both environment, nature, wildlife species, and the people living in it can actually benefit from all of this work. I just want to say that we are there to work on the conservation agenda together with everybody out there. See us as a key partner in your work.
Thank you, Dr. Jason Hon, to be with us today in the studio.
Welcome.
Hubungan ekosistem manusia adalah bergantung kepada alam semula jadi. Kedua-duanya tidak dapat dipisahkan bagi meneruskan kelangsungan hidup di muka bumi ini. Saya Qistina Donna Lee Abdullah mengucapkan Assalamualaikum dan salam hormat.